Hey guys, welcome in. It is Brad with College SportsCast. I've got Hammonds here with me tonight, and we are here to talk about SEC Media Days. This is our summer series, SEC Media Days. All right, guys, welcome back in. It is Brad with College SportsCast. Hammonds, it's been a little while since you've been on with me.
Yeah, it's been quite a while, man.
Hammonds, it's been 2.5 3 weeks since I done one, and probably about 3.5 weeks since Hammond's done one. So we took a little bit of time off.
I haven't been on here since the College World Series began.
Yeah, that's about right. And then me and John John Roberts finished up the College World Series, and you took a few days off, and then we finished season 2, and now we are doing our summer series. This is our second year of doing the summer series and covering SEC Media Days. So some new things that I want to talk about this year, the bottom of the screen there. We presented by the Fanboys. We are featured on the Real Fresh channel on YouTube. We are also on WSBN TV channel 30. And right now we are being featured live on GreenvilleSportsMedia.com, or we should be if we got it hooked up right. Also, there's a couple of sponsors there. True Victory. Use our DeFanboys code for a 15% discount. We also have links on Amazon links for Amazon on Greenville Sports Media. And then I will talk about a couple of other ones as the show goes on. But we are being featured on a website now, Greenville Sports Media. This show is, and we will have a college game day on Greenville Sports Media this year on Friday nights. So we're excited about that. In about a week or so, I'm going to go to Greenville, South Carolina again, and we are going to cover SoCon Football Media Days. Me and Jay, who is the Furman guy here at Greenville Sports Media. So excited about that. Just a few things that's going on.
Well, and I want to kind of add to what we're talking about today. Today's a historic day for many that love college football, EA Sports. It officially returned today.
It did.
And the servers, unfortunately, when they started the download, the servers buckled up and had everybody logged out. So,
if you didn't expect that, with the hundreds of thousands or millions, maybe, I don't know, that's trying to download this all at one time, if you didn't expect it to crash a little bit, then you don't really have a whole lot of common sense. Honestly, I would think that this first week, there'll be quite a few bugs in all of this.
Would be my guess. And I seen one last night where somebody had made a post about the Ohio State. There was an Ohio State game, Penn State game or something, and the running back went in to do for a touchdown, and the ball was hanging up in the air. Like the defender was not even there. The ball was just like up in the air. And I said, there's a few glitches and bugs in this that they're going to have to iron out.
So, the first week or two here, guys, there's going to be some bugs. And, there's some things that happen, whether it be crashes or glitches or, there's going to be some things that's happening in this game. That's one reason. It's one reason why it's good to get the disc and play your own game and not be playing online with everybody else at the same time.
Friday, yours truly will be getting the disc. So
Right.
I'm gonna wait it. I'm gonna wait it out and for a couple. Even Friday, it's going to be a mess. It's going to take time to load the game up. But at the end of the day, we're all going to get it. Whoever's going to get it. I'm just really kind of upset that it didn't come on PC because PC is a big thing nowadays on the computer.
It probably will. It just that wasn't their initial launch, but it probably will.
It will. I just kind of wanted to bring that up a little bit before we done the media days. Kind of just everybody was talking about it at the SEC media days. Even the journalists, somebody had it. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was Brad Crawford. I think he had it logged into his front rows in the lobby at media day. I'm like, everybody's talking about this. It's just
yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, to get this out of the way, help support us by sending stars or subscribe to our channel. We now have a subscribe on Facebook, and you can subscribe to us on Facebook. That is both of these is on Facebook. You can help support us. Also, like and support us and sub to us on YouTube if you are on YouTube. So just want to get that out of the way.
How you
doing, Jerry? Good to see you, man. It's been a few weeks. Good to see you, Jerry. So, all right, let's dive right in. We are here to discuss the day's happenings at the SEC Media Days. I'll get this up here. Well, that's not the one that I was trying to get up on the screen. There it is. The one that I was trying to get up on the screen to start with. SEC Media Days is in for the first time. You got Texas and Oklahoma that's joined us. This is the first time being there. And for the first time ever, it is a little further west than it's ever been. It's in Dallas, Texas. This time. Next year, it's going to be in Atlanta. Last year was in Nashville. This year for Oklahoma and Texas, they went to Dallas. There are over 1,200 media members at SEC Media Days.
It's a lot of people.
John, just to give you a little perspective, the Big 12 just had theirs last week in Las Vegas, and there was about 500 media people.
Does that not tell you that SEC moves the ratings?
There's over 1,200, and I'm going to be honest, there's some that got denied. I might be one of them. But I'm just saying, I was told in that they was just too many. They didn't have enough space for everybody. So, the bigger ones got in. I understand.
Small guys like us.
I'm going to be honest with you. Once you get a taste of going to some of these SEC events,
you'll love it. Yeah.
I so want to be there. My goal is for us to be there. I am working hard on it every day. If you are watching and you're following us, help us out. Tell people, let's share, do anything you can to help us out and to help our reach out. Like I said, we are doing this live on GreenvilleSportsMedia.com. As well, we are doing this on WSBN TV. We're live on WSBN TV. You can do Roku and Apple and Fire TV through the BoxCast app through WSBN TV. So there are many ways you can find us. But we are excited about SEC Media Days. Of course, every year it starts with the commissioner. And the commissioner comes out and he addresses the media and then gets questioned by the media. And of course, this year, one of the main topics that everybody is talking about is expansion. Everybody's talking about the litigation that's going on with Florida State and Clemson. And I cannot tell you, John, the amount of times that Sankey had to address that the SEC is glad to be a 16-team league,
Mm-hmm.
and that they are happy where they are.
Well, and two, the thing that really he went on to say, that he was not a recruiter.
Yep.
It was his job to make sure that the standard of excellence that they have for themselves attracts interest in teams and such forth. He kind of made me he made me laugh. He said, "I'm not going to get involved in recruitment." He was very strict and to the point about what he wants at the SEC, and he understands that some of these teams are not Southeastern teams, like Missouri.
I wanted to get into that with you, John, is because he brought up that he is proud, and the Southeastern Conference is proud to still be in the southeastern part of the United States.
Well, and Missouri was a Big 12 team, right? They're really Big 12 territory, but they came in here 7-8 years ago, and they've done
12, somewhere around there. Yeah,
and they've done really good. They've won some SEC. They've been to some SEC titles, championships. So, overall, I think as a whole, the SEC is the best it's ever been, especially if you're adding Texas and Oklahoma to the mix starting this year.
Yeah, and that was the talk from Greg Sankey today, was that they are a 16-team league, that they are not looking, that they're not recruiting, that they would be satisfied long-term staying as a 16-team league. He said that on more than one occasion. I can't tell you the amount of times he was asked about it today.
Right.
And a couple of the other things that was talked about, of course, was the settlement and the NCAA litigation, stuff that's going on. All of that is coming, or at least we hope it is, that it gets worked out, because if it doesn't, money-wise, everything might go bankrupt. So we hope that that's coming down the road. And that was another thing that was kind of talked about between questions with Greg Sankey today.
Mm-hmm.
But I've met Mr. Greg Sankey, to be quite honest with you. I had the privilege of doing the women's SEC tournament in March, and he is a really genuine, good guy.
And I think a lot of the rap against him, though, has kind of – there's been a lot of things go against him, but the majority of it has been the officiating on his part, I think, in football and basketball. I think there's other things that need work, but I think that's where he gets his biggest gripe is the officiating in college basketball in the SEC and SEC football.
But, man, I'm going to tell you, I don't think the SEC is any worse than any other place. You go around the country and watch college basketball, watch college football, watch NFL, watch the NBA. The officiating is just – it's not nearly as good as it was 30 years ago, I don't think.
The NFL for me, I'll be honest with you, I feel like it's getting worse and worse every year.
I think officiating alone, just by itself, all over no matter what you're talking about, especially in football and basketball, I think it's gotten worse over the years.
But see, that's where I wanted to kind of bring in on Greg Sankey. I think that's where he gets his biggest gripe from a lot of fans, though, is because of the officiating. And that's not fair to him because, he does a really good job with this conference, the things that he does. but then he
Man,
gets.
look how strong the SEC. So 16 teams, okay, including Texas and Oklahoma this past year. The SEC had, if you include them, won 11 national titles in the calendar year of 2024. They won 8. Okay, so there's 11 if you include Texas and Oklahoma. And I'm talking women's basketball. I'm talking gymnastics. I'm talking volleyball. Texas won the volleyball. I'm talking Oklahoma softball. I'm talking, so I'm talking all the sports. They won 11 national titles, including Texas and Oklahoma. The state of the Southeastern Conference is in really, really good shape. And I'm just going to be honest with you.
And not just football. Basketball will be good.
I'm talking about the whole state of the conference is in really good shape. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. The SEC doesn't need Florida State and Clemson.
They really don't. If you want to go to the Big Ten,
here's the deal. I enjoyed Sankey today saying that they're really not interested in getting messed up and getting intertwined with more litigation, which is what is going on with Florida State and Clemson.
Hey, there's room over there in the Big Ten country. There's some team that needs help. So
I'm just saying, I was glad to hear that from Sankey. So that's where we'll start with Commissioner Greg Sankey. He puts on great events.
I kind of got a quote that I want to talk about coming up because it's something that Saban said today that really, it just kind of missed the point to the whole country. You know what I mean? So
yeah, Saban did have something to say about Texas that I thought was pretty good. And maybe we'll get to that today, but he did have something really good to say about Texas. All right. So next up to the podium today was LSU and Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly has been right there 2 seasons in a row. They won the West 2 years ago. They were right there in the mix of things last year, had a Heisman Trophy winner in Daniels. Malik Neighbors was one of the best wide receivers in the country last year. Of course, they have gone on to the NFL, and there is, some expectations that the offense will come down a little bit. And with the new defensive coordinator, most people expect the defense the only place they can go is up compared to the defense that they had last year.
And to be fair, Garrett Nussmeier, he's walking into a new situation. He's succeeding a Heisman Trophy winner for a program that's won 10 games in back-to-back years. And I want to say this. I said this on my X account. I think it was a couple of days ago, or it might have been last night. I wouldn't be shocked if Garrett Nussmeier is the best quarterback by the time the year's out.
Best as in the SEC?
Maybe top 3, yes.
There's some good quarterbacks in the league.
They are. I'm not denying that. I just think that he has a lot to gain and he has a lot to look forward to. Now he's going into, like I said, he's going into in a position where he's trying to succeed a Heisman Trophy winner, and that's never easy. I will say this:
he does probably have the benefit of having one of probably the top 2 or 3 offensive lines in the SEC.
Well, and you can't forget they got Harold Perkins Jr. too. I mean, they're loaded on defense.
Him on the defensive side of the ball, but talking about the offense here, Nussmeier, will be protected really well. They have probably one of the top offensive lines. The thing of it is they lost an awful lot. I mean, when you lose Neighbors and the other kid that was a top 20 pick, Brian, I want to say Thomas.
It might be it's Thomas, I think. Yep.
Something like that was his name. He was a top 18, top 20 pick. Yep. They had 3 picks in the top 20.
Yeah,
LSU. All of them were receivers or quarterback.
They done really good in the draft.
And I mean, that's a lot to lose. So to think that you could just have somebody else step in and do what Malik Neighbors did, I'm not sure that he's going to be on that kind of level. You know what I mean?
Well, and another thing too, Daniels did a lot more. He could do a lot more than what Nussmeier can do now. Nussmeier can scramble, but I don't think he's going to be leading the Tigers in rushing like Daniels.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be doing what Daniels did with his.
They're going to have to find their rushing production elsewhere, and probably.
But I will say this. So I was listening to all the talking heads basically today. Aaron Rodgers and not Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Rodgers. I don't know where that come from. Anyways, it's his brother. My bad. I don't know. Anyways, that's not what I meant to say. But anyways, so I was listening to all this, and there's some talk that, they think LSU has a chance to make the college football playoff here with this team.
They really do.
So there's, let's switch to the defensive side of the ball here for LSU. And Eddie House is out. And if you watched LSU last year, you know exactly why. Their defense was horrendous.
It was pretty bad.
It was like watching a bullfight and them just it was pretty bad. It was bad. I mean, it was bad. It was really, really bad. They bring in Baker.
Yep.
And he is expected, of course, to make a vast improvement. And it doesn't hurt when you got a guy the caliber of Harold Perkins.
Well, they got him. I think Savion Jones returns at DN. I think you get Spears. I think he was a safety. He comes back this year. That front four might be one of the top front four in the SEC, in my opinion. They get Jalen Lee back. They get Dory back. Jones, like I said. And then you add Harold Perkins to this defense. And you add the new defensive coordinator. I think it's going to be a really improved defense starting in Baton Rouge this year.
Yeah, I mean, I do as well. The key factor here is they were so low last year. They're definitely going to be improved on the defensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. Harold Perkins last year, coming off a freshman year where he looked really, really good, all freshman team, SEC, was predicted to be like an All-American last year as a sophomore. Yeah, okay, but he struggled with the scheme that they ran last year. Harold Perkins was still a good player.
He was good.
And I don't sit here. I'm not saying that he was a terrible player. He was still a good player, but he did not play on the level that most people thought he was going to be able to play. And a whole lot of that was dictated on scheme.
There were times,
and to me, there was a new guy. I think that's going to, it's going to work in their favor.
Well, to me, at times it felt like that LSU at times had him playing out of position, like he was out of position at times. I just didn't. I thought he was just his numbers were good, but like you said, it was just the schemes were just not fit
he was out of place a lot of times. He was on the wrong side of the field when he needed to be at certain times.
And you can't have a guy. You can't have a guy of like his stature doing those certain things. You gotta showcase.
They were just kind of all over the place last year, and Harold Perkins is elite. I mean, in the NFL one day he's going to be elite. I mean, he is that kind of talent, and I just think that I just think that there's no place to go but up for that defense. If you get what I'm saying.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's expectation wise. What do you think here with LSU? I mean, do you think winning the SEC is the top of what they could be, or do you think getting to the college football playoff is the top of where they could be? What's your expectation here for Brian Kelly, who's done a really good job? 2 10-win seasons at LSU is nothing to laugh about, to be honest.
There's not. I think for them to get to where they want to be, I think they got a shot at making the college football playoff. But I just think there's so many good teams in front of them this year, like Ohio State and so forth. So I just don't see them doing that this year. But I do see them maybe playing for an SEC championship this year. There's that possibility. Just depends on what these other SEC teams do.
So in the SEC, you've got Georgia, you've got Texas, you've got Alabama, you've got Ole Miss, you've got LSU, you've got Missouri that should be with their schedule should be up in there. So I mean, just to be in the top 5 in the SEC is going to be a nightmare trying to get through the schedule to be able to do that. So.
Yeah.
Jerry says 8-4. 8-4 would be a little bit of a downgrade for LSU if that's where they are at the end of the regular season. I'm going to say 9-3. That's kind of looking at their schedule. That's kind of where I'm leaning. We of course are going to do our conference previews and do predictions and stuff in August, and we will get to that, but that's kind of where I'm leaning for them. So, all right, second up today was South Carolina and Shane Beamer.
And I really liked what Saban said about them. Saban said that they was not far off. And I love that about South Carolina. Now, they had a really rough year last year, won 5 games last year.
And that was with an all SEC type performer with the quarterback.
Yeah, Shane's a really good coach. I think, he connects with players really well. It's just that schedule, man. Their schedule's tough. They start out with Kentucky right off the bat on the road. And it just, early on, South Carolina's going to have to win some winnable games because that schedule is really, really tough, in my opinion. It's not as tough as it has been, but it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, it is. So the buzz really with South Carolina today was kind of around their offense.
Yeah.
That was kind of the buzz with South Carolina today. That was, that's what everybody was wanting to really talk about and ask questions about, was kind of surrounded around their offense. You've got a redshirt freshman that has been announced as their quarterback, Lenore Shelley.
Lenore Sellers.
Yeah. Sellers.
Yeah.
Sellers.
Well, and you can't forget they also bring back Jared Brown. They bring back Delvon Campbell. I'm going to tell you a guy to watch. He's just a sophomore. It's Nick Harbor. Nick Harbor is the real deal, y'all. Nick Harbor can play. So South Carolina's got a pretty decent team.
So I'm going to throw out a name here on the offense that most people in the SEC is going to recognize, and that's Rocket Sanders. He transferred from Arkansas to South Carolina. So that's a player on the offense along with Sellers.
Mm-hmm.
Sellers is a 240, 6'3", 240, can use his legs. They are saying that he is very similar in play to somebody like KJ Jefferson. So KJ Jefferson is absolutely a really good quarterback with arm and legs.
Yep.
So, but here's my deal. They lose Xavier Legette, first-round pick. Xavier Legette on the outside was fantastic. And, they lose him to the NFL. Are they going to be able to replace that on the outside with this offense, do you think?
I don't think they can replace it, but I just gave you a name that he's just a sophomore, Nick Harbor. I think Nick Harbor he's the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so offensively, I think that they have a chance to be improved. But, I mean, let's be honest, they had some pretty good offensive numbers last year as well.
They did.
I mean, when you have Legette that gets drafted and you've got the quarterback that gets drafted, so, I mean, we got a guy here talking about their offensive line, and that's kind of where they weren't very good on the offense.
They was not.
Yeah, I mean,
is there
going to be some improvement there? Because if there's not, even though they were kind of hyped up about the offense, I don't know that you're going to see a whole lot of improvement with this South Carolina team if their offensive line is not better.
Mm-hmm. Well, and their defense didn't help last year either. Their defense struggled to get off the field at times. But South Carolina's, to me, they're not far off. They just need a little push, I guess. And, starting out, they go right on the road to Kentucky to start the season out.
Second game of the year.
Second game of the year. Like, that's a really big game for them, in my opinion.
And if you look, I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff here, but if you look at South Carolina's schedule, they kind of play a tough schedule too.
They do.
They end with South Carolina. I mean, with Clemson, of course, and they play another Power 5 team. Trying to think off the top of my head who it is.
Ain't North Carolina, is it?
They played North Carolina last year, so it might
be somebody else. I can't remember.
A return game to them, but they play. I'm pretty sure 2 Power 5 teams. So they don't have too many games that you can look at their schedule and say they'll be favored. South Carolina doesn't.
Mm-mm.
I think a win here in my opinion, a win here for South Carolina will be to get to a bowl game.
Yeah. I think that's a big year for them, honestly.
Replacing Spencer Rattler and Xavier Legette is what I'm talking about. I mean, it's going to be a huge, huge deal for them to try to replace both of them. So, I mean, James, you talked about the offensive tackle. The offensive tackle may be good, but as a whole, that offensive line was not good last year.
And I say this,
ran for his life most of the year.
Well, and I'll say this about Spencer Rattler. The year that they had, he put up some big numbers and had one of his better years last year.
7-5, James, in my opinion, would be spectacular for this South Carolina team. If you look at their schedule, if they could figure out a way to get to 7-5, not only is that a win, I think that's spectacular. I think a 6-6 schedule will be a win.
Yeah.
I really do.
Listen, as you get into the SEC, I tell people this all the time. Once you get into the SEC, it gets a lot harder. Scheduling, recruiting, everything. And that's why I want to bring up the little comment that Saban said today. Saban mentioned today that Texas would not run the SEC like they did the Big 12. And kind of
I thought it's kind of funny to be honest with you, that we're
ruffle some feathers too. I mean, but it's the truth, because you're going from a bunch of teams like TCU, Iowa State, etc., to teams like LSU, Georgia, Alabama. Now you've added Oklahoma, Texas A&M. Like, every Saturday is not a day off in college football in the SEC. You're going to have to strap it up and play football.
It doesn't mean that they won't be good. It doesn't mean they can't win the SEC here and there. And Oklahoma's in the same boat. Oklahoma, if you look at their history, Oklahoma basically, I mean, they won the conference over half the time that they've been in. You know what I mean? I'm talking if you go back 60, 80 years, you look at it, they've won it half the time.
The thing about Texas, though, is they have started this under Sark, and they're going to continue to do that. I think Sark's a really good coach. I think he's recruited really well the last couple of years. They get Quinn Ewers back. They got the transfer from Alabama, Isaiah Bond. Baxter is going to replace the running back from last year. Who was it? Robinson, I think. So this is going to be a fun team, man, to watch.
Oh, I think so too. Just pinning a couple of comments here. Jerry, yes, I thought the Saban comments coming from him, it even made it a little bit more funny, if you ask me. Talking about the comments that Saban made about Texas not running the SEC.
And then he had a thing where they wouldn't let him in without his credentials.
Yeah.
He said, "This is new for me." Like, he said, "This is something new." He said, I've never, he's not out there cussing 20-year-old kids out anymore on the field. He's having to go through security clearances.
Well, so the guy that stopped him, just to throw this out there, he was once a 4-star wide receiver recruit. The guy that asked for his credentials, that stopped him and made Saban go back and get his credentials, it showed him later on. I didn't catch his name, but he was once a 4-star wide receiver recruit.
That's pretty.
And I'm guessing Saban didn't recruit him, but I don't know that. That's just a pure guess. But I thought it was funny.
Those were two quotes that I kind of thought was neat today. The Ole Miss thing was good today too, with Lane Kiffin.
We'll get to that.
Giving tribute to his dad.
Yeah. So before we move on to the next segment, I want to talk about us being on the Real Fresh channel on YouTube full time for season 3. We are looking forward to that. And you can hear from Howie Fresh yourself.
Hey, I am Hal Fresh here to tell you about the Real Fresh channel. That's right, youtube.com/the Real Fresh channel. We are a network aiming to bringing you various content each and every day, different types of podcasts, different type of content, anything from college sportcast and fresh takes for some sports. We also got You Want to Do What? We got the Wrestling Corner. We got live stream. Just go over to youtube.com/the Real Fresh channel and hit us up today. Thank you for checking it out. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Howie.
All right, guys, that was Howie Fresh. You can go to YouTube, look up the Real Fresh channel, and we will be featured on there. He's got a lot of different stuff, guys. He does, if you're a wrestling fan, he does a lot of wrestling stuff. He also has NFL
There
shows.
he is. Speaking of himself, there he is.
Is he
Right there.
on? Hey,
Yeah,
I got Mr. Howie on. What's up, Mr. Howie Fresh?
Yo, he said.
I was just talking about you. Played your thing, your little video that you sent me for the YouTube channel. So I was just talking about you, man. But Howie Fresh, he is on with us. He does great stuff with NFL. If you're an NFL fan, he does MLB. He is from Canada, so he knows quite a bit about hockey. And he does a lot of stuff with pro sports. So if you're a pro sports fan, he is your guy to go to. He is on the Real Fresh channel on YouTube. Check him out. I've got it up on the screen, and I can't believe he showed up at the time that I was doing this. I promise that was not planned out.
No, it was not.
I had not talked to Howie, said, hey, halfway through, show up. I did not do that. That was not planned.
He said, happy to partner with you, legends.
He is going to be with us this year. We're going to do a lot of cool stuff. He writes for Greenville Sports Media. If you are a wrestling fan, he does 2 or 3 articles a week on all of it. AEW, WWE, I mean, you name it, he does it. He covers it. And also, like I said, NFL, MLB, hockey, so he does a lot of pro stuff as well. He was pretty good at doing picks in the NFL last year, if I'm not mistaken. So there you go. All right. We're going to move on from Mr. High Fresh. I'm glad you stopped by. But we are going to move on. Our next up guest for SEC Media Days today was Lane Kiffin with Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. And like you started to talk about, and I hated to cut you short there, but I was trying to get to the Real Fresh channel stuff there. But I do want to start out with the passing of his legendary father, Monty Kiffin.
Yeah, it was very, very touching.
And they done quite a few tributes to him for SEC Media Days today. So I want to start out with that. John, what are your thoughts and how they handled? Because I don't even think they've had the wake yet.
I think that was the thing to do. You know, Monty Kiffin's been a staple in football for a long time. If people don't know, he was the creator of the Tampa 2 defense. A lot of people don't know that. So
Mr. Fred made me a lot of money. Look at there. I'm telling you, he was really good at picks, NFL wise.
Yeah, he's good at picks, Fresh is. But Monty Kiffin was a staple, like I said. He's a legend. Creator of the Tampa 2 defense. Spent some time in college. Spent some time in pro. I think that was the way they handled things at the SEC Media Days with that. I think that was the right thing to do because I think Lane wanted. I think even Lane wanted to do that, and just to honor his dad. And I think that is a very honorable thing to do in this situation.
Lane himself today not only called his dad a hero, his hero, he said his dad was his superhero.
Yep. Can't get no better than that. Can't get no better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, he was still working up to, I mean, last season in the background at Ole Miss for Lane. So, I mean, you know, he at 84 years old, him and Lane were very, very tight, of course, into the profession, coached together at times. Monty coached for him in college and pros. Of course, he's most legendary known at Tampa, creating the Tampa 2, using the cover 2, and winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah. I will say this as we're going into doing Ole Miss. This might be the best offense in the country, not named Ohio State.
I'm going to tell you the lineup for this Ole Miss team is right up there with the best of them. It's right up there with the Texas. It's right up there with the Ohio States and the Georgias. The questions is can Lane get pushed through now that Saban's gone and he had a hard time beating Saban? Now Saban's gone. Is this the year that Kiffin gets his guys to get that little extra oomph to get to the college football playoff? Because
I'll tell you this too.
That's not their goal this year. They're in the wrong business because this team needs to be in the college football playoff.
They got Jackson Dart at receiver or at quarterback. They bring back Trey Harris, Antoine Wells, former Kentucky commit, Jordan Watkins, Deion Jones. I think he's a junior. That's not to mention the running backs. They bring Euless Bentley, Henry Parrish. This team is loaded from top to bottom, and they got Walter Nolan, the junior transfer. They also got Brandon Turnage, I think he was a transfer from the University of Tennessee. Their defense will be much better. But the biggest concern I have with Ole Miss, and I've said this ever since Lane has been there, every time it comes up close to a big game, it seems like they don't know how to respond. The Alabama game last year, it was
tough.
They had so many chances. They was in the red zone, 2 or 3 times, and couldn't score.
Just couldn't score that touchdown last year in that game.
Couldn't figure things out on offense. And that's where I want to see where Ole Miss gets over the hump is some of these bigger games like Alabama, the LSU games.
But you watch them playing some of these other teams, and they run up 56 points.
Yeah.
I mean,
Scared money. What Billy Napier always said, scared money don't make money, brother.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So you've got this LSU or this Ole Miss team, even on defense, the defense is vastly improved when you look at the players on this Ole Miss team.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course, you've got Jackson Dart.
Yeah, he's tough.
Honestly, could have put his name in the draft last year. I mean, I'm not saying that Jackson Dart would have been a first rounder, but I will guarantee you he would have been a 3rd or 4th round pick if he would have went.
Is he a Heisman dark horse to you?
I think so. I think Jackson Dart is absolutely a Heisman dark horse. And I think that for sure that this offense, they've got returning wide receivers. They've still got a very good back, maybe even better than Judkins.
Yeah, Bentley.
He's a
Yeah.
little more shifty than Judkins is. I can say that for sure.
Yep.
I mean, so when you look at this Ole Miss team, they absolutely, the bottom of what they should expect is a 10-2 and a run at the college football playoff.
Well, and I'll tell you, their schedule, I'll just kind of bring it out while we're here. They start out with Furman. Now, listen, folks, and this is no hatred to Jay whatsoever, but I mean, they play Furman starting out. I mean, that's going to be a tough game for them. For Furman, I mean, but they play Furman. Let's see who else they play. Middle Tennessee. They go to Wake, Georgia Southern, Kentucky. That's a home game, by the way. At South Carolina, at LSU, Oklahoma, at Arkansas, Georgia, at Florida, and Mississippi State. There's a chance there where they could win 9-10 games.
Easy. I'm
easy.
saying the floor should be honestly, I think with the talent they have, the floor should be 10 wins. 10-2.
And by the way, shout out to Jay for getting to cover that Ole Miss game. That's going to be pretty neat.
Jay is covering SoCon. That's why I'm doing Furman. Actually, he's covering Furman, who is in the Southern Conference, and that's why I'm going to get to go and do.
That's pretty awesome that Jay gets to go to Bryant. Hemingway.
Yeah, Oxford. He gets to go to Oxford.
That's pretty neat.
So cover. Of course, he's covering it on the Furman side, but just getting to go to games like that in the, this week they're doing soccer stuff, and he's getting to go to Duke and South Carolina, and so I mean, he covers all their sports with Furman. So, but yeah, man, it's really cool. Just to throw that out there since you brought it up. But so, we've talked about a lot here with Ole Miss. Do you think – so you think 9 is their absolute lowest, that 9 wins? But do you think if they go to 9 wins and don't make the college football playoff, is that a successful season for them?
Not with the roster that they're bringing in and the transfer portal players that they got. This is for me. This is the year for Ole Miss. If they're wanting to go to that next step, they're going to have to prove it on the field this year, because they went out and they got a boatload of people in the transfer portal. And they added
their schedule. I mean, honestly, 6-0 is not out of the realm when you look at their schedule.
And I'll even go as far as say that their biggest player is the one that didn't even go to the NFL, and Jackson Dart. Like, he's their main guy.
Yeah.
Now if they lost Jackson Dart, I could see a scenario where they're not as good. Maybe they won't be as powerful offensively. But with Jackson Dart, they got a chance to be in that top 5, top 4 level and compete with Ohio State and the rest of these teams fighting amongst them in the top 5. So, yes, I think this is a big year for Ole Miss. I don't think any just ordinary bowl game is going to smooth things over.
With the 12-team playoff, there is no more New Year's Six bowls, which is what kind of Kiffin has been. He's went 2 or 3 times since he's been there to the New Year's Six bowls that he's not gotten to the playoffs, but he's made a little noise because he's gotten them to the New Year's Six bowls. Yep. Well, there is no more New Year's Six bowls with the 12-team playoff. So now you've got to make that 12-team playoff, and then you're going to have bowls like the Outback Bowl and the, and stuff like that, which is not called Outback anymore, but still, I can't remember what the name of it is, but so I think the college football playoff is absolutely the bottom of their expectations, and the top would be to win the conference.
Yeah,
Let's be honest. And I'm not saying that they're the favorites, but I am saying that they are one of the teams outside of the top 2 or 3 that I would say would have the best chance to do that.
Yeah. Like, and Jerry made a good point here. I think even a 3-loss SEC team can probably.
Yeah, I think it's possible
because if you look at the 12-team playoff this year, it's going to be a lot easier to get into the playoff this year than it would be a year like we've had in the past. So a team that's maybe lost 2 or 3 games is going to have an opportunity to play for a chance to, play for the title. So I think but if you're Ole Miss, you don't want to. I don't think you want to lose 3 games with the kind of year and expectations that you're supposed to have. I think this is a big year.
If they go 9-3 and still get in the playoffs and can win 1 or 2 games and make it to the semifinals or something, I think it's a successful year. But if they go 9-3 and make the playoffs, then I don't think it's a successful year.
I'm talking, losing 4 or 5 games and not being able to accomplish what they thought they was going to and the expectations that they had, because this is a big year for Ole Miss. I've said it all summer. This is the best chance for Ole Miss to take that next big step, and I think it starts against Furman starting out the year.
Absolutely, I agree.
First game of the year.
All right, so we're going to move on to the last one today, and this is the one that nobody really wants to touch, nobody really wants to talk about, but we're going to get into it just a little bit here. We've got Vanderbilt and Clarke Lee. Clarke Lee was, up at the podium today. I want to say this. Last year he got to the podium and he was kind of trying to act big and talking about how, he was going to get Vanderbilt at the top of the SEC and all this. I thought he was really low key today when he was talking. He must be muted.
Oh, I said I felt like he was.
Yeah, I thought he was really low key when he was talking.
Yeah, he was not like last year. He was not very energetic as he was last year.
No, and he kind of was a little boasting last year in a couple of different times and stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought he was very low key this year. This is year 4. He's had 3 years there. I think he's 9-27. I mean, this is one of the toughest jobs in the country. Let's not even skate around it. I mean, it's one of the toughest jobs in the country to be in the SEC and have to compete with now 15 other schools that is just demolishing you in recruiting. And then here's the real kicker when it comes to Vanderbilt. Okay? If you look at their roster, they were decimated in the transfer portal.
I'm going to say this.
Decimated.
I know that they brought in Nate Johnson, Diego Pavia. Pavia's from New Mexico State. Johnson's from Utah, I believe. Nate Johnson. Here's my biggest concern. They lost London Humphreys and they lost Will Shepherd.
So you look at their quarterback room, you look at their linebacker room, and you look at their wide receiver room, and they lost them all. They're all over the country, all around the country. I mean, they lost so when they do build players,
they leave.
They just transfer out and go to a bigger program or a better program.
Well, and I'm going to say this too, and a lot of people has not even touched on this, is how much better can this defense really get? Because in 22 and 23, they had more talent on offense than they did on defense.
I really don't know the answer to that, Jerry, if they are completely done with their stadium renovation or not. They have to be further along than they were last year. That was an embarrassing to put that out there for the teams to have to play in last year. So let's hope it's a little better than last year. Let's just put it that way.
And I was just saying about their defense. Their offense was better than their defense. Their defense, and to quote my famous saying, they couldn't stop a nosebleed. They couldn't stop nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, Kentucky was running up and down the
field.
I mean,
they had some decent offensive players last year, but they all transferred out.
There was some small schools that run up. Was it UMass, I think, run up and down the field on that shouldn't be happening in you an SEC school.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, so
I know that. See, here's the thing about Vanderbilt, and I know that you're going to come back at me with this. I know the recruiting is not where it should be, and you got to recruit different at Vanderbilt. But it should not be where it is right now at the point in time that we're in. Look at James Franklin, former he's the Penn State coach now, former Vanderbilt coach. He took Vanderbilt and made them competitive and took them, to 2 bowl games, 3 bowl games?
He did. They won 2
and people act like Vanderbilt is a dead-end job, and I just don't believe that.
Yeah, but here's the difference. When James Franklin was there, you didn't have the transfer portal like this where everybody's transferring out.
That's true.
You didn't have to go up against NIL to get players, which is very tough for a place like Vanderbilt.
But I get that. But you shouldn't have to struggle this bad to get players to come in and play at the SEC school.
I'm telling you, this may be one of the toughest jobs in the country. And I'm putting UMass and UConn and all them other smaller schools, I'm putting them all in there. This may be one of the toughest jobs in the country because you are at such a disadvantage to recruit players. And when you do recruit players like a Will Shepherd who shows up and turns out they just go somewhere else. They spend the 1 year playing good and they just transfer out. So you don't get a chance to have a roster where it looks like you have recruited players because when you do recruit them, they just transfer out.
Which Will Shepherd went to Colorado, by the way.
Yes. And that was just one of them. There was a dozen players.
But if we're being fair, London Humphrey was about as good as Will Shepherd.
He was. I mean, they had some really good wide receiver players there. They've had some good quarterbacks there that transferred out. They've had some good linebackers there. I'm telling you, they're all gone. Now, he, of course, is brought in his transfers because he had to, so he's got a bunch of transfers this time. But here you're talking about now, not players coming back. He's got to put all this together again in year 4 and got to start over again, and that's just tough to do. I'm telling you, this is one of the toughest jobs in the country. Now,
I'll say this real quick too. They start out with Virginia Tech, right?
Which is
their schedule,
which is a killer game for them because Virginia Tech is supposed to be a little better and maybe make a run in the ACC to be in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th range in the ACC this year. And if Vanderbilt could somehow figure out a way to win that game, that would be huge for Clarke Lee.
Well, and I say this too, they play Alabama, Missouri, LSU, Tennessee. That's not the worst part. And we've been talking about the worst part. The worst part is they lost their starting quarterback and two of their biggest producers on offense, their production. And that's not good.
Defense. Yeah.
And that's not good entering in the year not knowing where you're going to go. Like it's
I mean, but now I'm going to flip the script here. I've talked about what they lost. Okay. So maybe you guys remember a New Mexico State team going into Jordan Hare last year, late in the year, and putting one on Auburn at home. You guys remember that? John, you remember New Mexico State going in there and winning that game?
John Roberts is going to cuss you here.
All right. Listen, I'm bringing this up because Clarke Lee basically went into New Mexico and stole their head coach, their offensive coordinator, and their quarterback.
Eli Stowers.
So I'm going to guess that he's not wanted out there in New Mexico for New Mexico State anymore. They don't want him out there because here's the deal. Jerry Kill, who has been very good at smaller schools, winning with lesser talent and beating teams like in Auburn, which he did last year. He was the head coach there at New Mexico State. They went like 9-4 or something and beat teams in a hostile environment like Jordan Hare and win with lesser talent. He is now on staff with Clarke Lee at Vanderbilt. I know I've talked about them losing their players and everything else, but I'm going to be honest with you, John. I think having Jerry Kill there with him is a very, very good move. You're talking about a guy who has a track record of teaching his players how to win against teams that have way more talent than he does.
I mean,
and that's what Vanderbilt's got to do.
He coached at Minnesota.
Yes, and he done it in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yes,
and,
he's done it all over the country. Jerry Kill.
I think having that experience too with him there will help Clarke. But I'm going to say this, and I'm just going to get straight to the point. A good year for Vanderbilt, and I know Vanderbilt fans don't want to hear this, and I get it, but they've struggled for the last 2-3 years, and they don't want to hear this statement, but it is what it is. A good season for them is 4 wins. And I know that's
okay. So I'm going to say this: a real good season would be 5 or 6, but you're talking. I mean, that would be stellar if they could get to 5 or 6.
Well, in some of those games, you're going to have to pull.
But if they can win their 4, if they could beat Virginia Tech, okay, and then win their 4 out of conference games, and then maybe still a win somewhere in the SEC, then you're talking 5.
I don't think they beat Virginia Tech because Virginia Tech's going to be much improved this year.
They are. Virginia Tech is going to be a tough game for them. But if they could win that game and then still won in the SEC, you're looking at 5. Now, I know that's not bold, but if they can get them to 5 wins, that's a stellar season for them.
Well, if you're going to look at the schedule of Vanderbilt, you're going to have to steal one of let's see here. I think I had the schedule pulled up. I can't remember. They start out with Virginia Tech, right? Play Alcorn State, Georgia State, which if they could beat Virginia Tech, they'd be 3-0, right?
Right.
Well, you're going to have to steal one, and then you beat Ball State. That would be 4. You're going to have to steal one on the road at Kentucky, and you're going to have to probably steal one at home versus South Carolina.
South Carolina, Florida. If they play Florida this year, I'm not sure.
I don't think they play Florida this year. They don't. They play Texas at home.
Yeah,
So
they get Texas at home. Yeah,
they're going to have to steal a game against Kentucky on the road or home against South Carolina to get that bowl game. And I just don't. And Kentucky's going to be out for revenge after Vanderbilt beat them last time in Commonwealth. Like Kentucky's going to be out for blood on that game. So
well, I mean, I'm not saying that that's the game they're going to get. I'm just telling you, if they can figure out a way, a huge win. I mean, I cannot explain more to you guys if you were watching with us that this Virginia Tech game at the very first game of the season for them is huge.
it's very huge. One of the biggest games of the year, I think, for Vanderbilt, especially if they want to have a good year. So
I'm telling you, it is a huge, huge game for them. I hope nothing but the best for them, to be quite honest with you. Another name that I did not get to that they took from New Mexico State was Tim Beck, offensive coordinator.
Beck, offensive coordinator. Yeah.
He's been in the SEC before. Tim Beck has been around and won a lot of – had good offenses and won a lot of big games at places. And to go get Jerry Kill and Tim Beck from New Mexico State after the season they had, including beating Auburn in Jordan-Hare and their quarterback.
I think, too, though, Brad,
Big.
I think he had to do this, though.
What's that?
Like, get a veteran because it was
Hey,
the ship was sinking really fast.
it was, and those are some really good moves by Clarke Lee.
Now,
and then the other move that I want to mention real quick, and then we can talk about that and whatever else you were going to say. But the other move that he did, and Clarke Lee was at Notre Dame as one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, and he is taking over the defensive coordinator duties. He wasn't pleased with the defense last year. You were talking about how terrible they are.
Mm-hmm.
As the head coach, he is taking over. That shows a little desperation as well. He's went out and got Jerry Kill and Tim Beck, and now he is taking over the defensive coordinator duties.
That's really tough because you're having to do head coaching duties plus that. Like, and you add Tim Beck, Jerry Kill. And like I said, I was getting ready to say, he had to do this because if he does not do this, the ship, like the old saying goes, rats on a sinking ship. Got tongue-tied there. Rats on a sinking ship.
Yeah.
That's what usually happens when it goes down in flames. And it was headed that direction if he didn't make some, I think, veteran moves to help this program because since, I'll even go as far as saying the coach after
Derek Mason. Derek Mason done a better job than what Clarke Lee did.
Derek Mason, everybody wants to jump on him, but I felt like he done a good job. He was just in a bad situation.
He done a better job than what Clarke Lee's done. He got him to a bowl game once or twice. Derek Mason did, I think twice. Pretty sure. And speaking of, he's still in Tennessee. He signed on with Middle Tennessee State, not far, Murfreesboro. MTSU. Derek Mason, he's going to be good there. You watch and see.
Yeah, he's
this is his first year. You got to give him a little time, but he's gonna have Middle Tennessee State playing good. And it's 30 miles from Nashville, which is where he had a good little run there at Vandy. I think he's going to do well there. But getting back to Vanderbilt, so the top here, I think would be, the absolute top would be to steal a couple of games in the SEC. I really don't think that'll happen. I think if they could get past Virginia Tech and win one in the SEC and be 5 wins, that would be a big plus for this Vanderbilt team. That's what I believe is 5 wins. I know that you would want to get to a bowl game if you can, but if they could beat this Virginia Tech team in the beginning of the season and still won in the SEC, if they could do 2, it'd be tremendous. But even 1 would be a really good season. I think that's the top. And then, of course, the bottom would be like 3.
Yeah. I accidentally exited out of everything. So
Uh,
that was my
So,
fault.
I mean, the bottom would be like a 3, and that would be losing to Virginia Tech, maybe winning the Ball State and the other
here's
games,
the thing.
and
Here's
then
the thing.
losing all of them in the SEC and being 3-9 again.
Here's the thing with those games. You can't afford to lose those games, the gimme games.
Right. The Georgia States and the Ball States. Yeah.
You just can't lose those games. It's just you just can't. Because if
Right.
you lose those games, you're not going to win the other games.
But like I said, so the 3, if they win 3 games, it would be those 3 games, and they would lose to Virginia Tech, and they would lose all of the SEC games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's kind of the bottom of where they would be.
It is.
And the absolute highest shelf top would be 6. I think more likely 5. And that's including beating Virginia Tech and figuring out a way to win 1 SEC game.
Yep.
That would be where I think Vanderbilt will wind up this season. So, all right. So that kind of wraps up day 1 in the SEC. But before we go off from here, I do have a couple of things that I want to talk about here. And one is this Home Field Apparel. Check out some really cool vintage stuff. You can get vintage baseball jerseys, vintage hats. They got dad hats. They got everything in the world.
Retro.
It's kind of similar to this. It's retro vintage, really cool stuff. They've got the dad hats they've got are cool as crap. They got the old logos on them and everything. They got like 54 different teams. Overall, there's 180 collegiate teams plus. So check out your favorite team. They're adding teams as we speak. There's going to be even more. I said 180, but there's going to be even more because this month they're adding like 4 or 5 more teams. So they're adding new teams as we speak. Go check them out. I don't care what team that you are a fan of. They more than likely will have something for your team. Check them out. If you're a first-time buyer, use our code CSCast for a 15% discount, and you will not regret having their cool stuff. So I want to talk about that. And then, of course, to end the show here, John, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or, of course, you can follow us on Twitter/X. We'll just call it X. But it used to be Twitter. But we would love for you to follow us on any of those. We are trying to build. Also, you can follow the Real Fresh channel on YouTube as well.
Also follow
earlier. What's that?
Greenville. Also follow Jay and Greenville Sports Media.
Yes, GreenvilleSportsMedia.com is the place to be for all of your sports needs. I was talking about the stuff that Fresh does. I'm telling you, SoCon. I'm talking about baseball stuff. I'm talking about minor league baseball stuff. I'm talking about wrestling. I'm talking about
Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, Atlanta Braves stuff. I'm talking about NFL. We will be doing every week, have NFL stuff on and picks and power list and everything for the NFL. Of course, I'll have Kentucky women's stuff on there. I'm doing conference previews right now. I've done one for MAC, for the CUSA. I've done one for the AAC. I've done one for all the Group 5, Mountain West. I've done them all. Also did one for the independents, and that includes Oregon State and Washington State. So go to Greenville Sports Media as well. I should put that on there, greenvillesportsmedia.com, and check us out. All right. We will see you guys tomorrow night with 4 new teams. And I think tomorrow is Georgia. I know it was Georgia.
Let me see here.
Go to Ranger Sports Media. I got day 2 article, and it tells you exactly who it is.
I got it pulled up right here. Day 2 is Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee.
All right, there you go. Day 2 tomorrow night, Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. And that will be the 4 teams that we will talk about and cover tomorrow night on our continued Summer Series week of the SEC Media Days here at College SportsCast. We guys hope you enjoyed the show, and have a great night, guys.
Have a good night.